Momo challenge. Momo stories spread rapidly through social media after images of a disturbing sculpture became connected to rumors about dangerous online messages targeting children. According to the stories, users would receive frightening instructions or threats through messaging apps late at night. Parents around the world became alarmed even though many claims turned out to be exaggerated or false. The panic surrounding Momo showed how quickly fear spreads online when disturbing images combine with uncertainty. News reports, videos, and online discussions amplified the legend until it became larger than the original story itself. What made the situation unusual was how real-world fear grew mostly through rumor and repetition rather than confirmed events. The internet transformed a single unsettling image into a worldwide horror phenomenon almost overnight. The Russian sleep experiment. The Russian sleep experiment became one of the most famous horror stories ever shared online, largely because many readers initially believed it was real. The story describes a secret Soviet experiment where prisoners were kept awake for long periods using a special gas. As time passes, the subjects supposedly descend into madness and violence, while researchers lose control of the situation completely. The story spread rapidly because it was written in a cold documentary style filled with realistic details. Readers encountered fake photographs and edited images connected to the story, which made the fiction appear believable at first glance. Although the experiment never actually happened, its presentation blurred the line between internet storytelling and real historical events. What made the story especially memorable was the slow psychological horror rather than sudden supernatural elements. The fear comes from watching human behavior collapse under extreme conditions. Blue Whale Challenge. The Blue Whale Challenge was an internet panic that became widely discussed during the late 2010 and around the lockdown period online. According to the stories, teenagers were contacted through social media or hidden online groups and given a series of disturbing tasks by anonymous curators. The rumors claimed participants were pressured to complete challenges over many days while being emotionally manipulated and isolated from others. One of the most repeated parts of the story involved users carving symbols or the words "blue whale" onto their hands or arms to prove participation. Other rumors described late-night tasks, horror images, and constant messaging meant to create fear and control. News reports, screenshots, and viral videos caused the story to spread rapidly across countries, especially among teenagers online. Over time, investigators found that many claims about the challenge were exaggerated, mixed with fake screenshots, rumors, and copied stories from social media. However, the panic itself became very real because people feared how anonymous internet groups could influence vulnerable users. The Blue Whale story became one of the internet's biggest examples of how online fear, misinformation, and real emotional harm can combine into a worldwide digital legend. The Backrooms. The Backrooms began with a simple online image showing an empty yellow room lit by fluorescent lights. The image itself looked ordinary, yet people immediately described it as deeply uncomfortable. Internet users soon built an entire horror mythology around the concept, imagining endless empty rooms hidden outside normal reality. According to the stories, people accidentally enter the Backrooms by slipping through invisible gaps in the world. The fear of the Backrooms comes from loneliness and endless repetition rather than direct violence. Hallways stretch forever, identical rooms repeat endlessly, and strange sounds echo in empty spaces. Later stories introduced mysterious creatures wandering through the levels, but the strongest horror remained the atmosphere itself. Many people connected emotionally to the idea because the environment resembled abandoned offices, old hotels, and forgotten buildings that already feel strangely unreal in everyday life. Glitch in the feed. Glitch in the feed stories involve disturbing moments hidden inside normal online content. A live stream may suddenly reveal a strange figure standing silently in the background. A family photo may contain someone who was never actually there. A video might briefly flash disturbing images between ordinary frames. These small disruptions create fear precisely because everything else seems normal. Social media helped this type become extremely common because people constantly consume endless streams of content every day. Horror creators realize that even a tiny mistake inside familiar media can feel deeply unsettling. Many stories suggest the glitches are not accidents at all, but signs that something hidden is trying to appear. Some characters become obsessed with replaying footage repeatedly, searching for details others missed. Over time, the glitches often become more frequent and impossible to ignore. Creepy chat room. Creepy chat room stories became popular during the early years of online messaging, when anonymous conversations with strangers were common. These stories usually begin normally, with someone entering a random chat room out of boredom or curiosity. At first, the conversation seems harmless, but one particular user slowly begins acting strangely. They may know impossible personal details, predict future events, or speak as if they are physically nearby. The fear in these stories grows gradually rather than suddenly. The stranger often remains calm and polite, which makes the situation feel even more unsettling. Over time, the main character realizes the conversation may not be random at all. Some stories reveal the stranger has been watching them, while others imply the user is not human in the first place. The reason this type became so common online is because anonymity already creates uncertainty. When people cannot see who they are speaking to, imagination fills the empty space with fear. Deep web stories. Deep web stories are built around hidden areas of the internet that most people never visit. In reality, the deep web mostly contains private databases and restricted information, but online horror transformed it into something far more mysterious. These stories often begin with a curious person searching for hidden websites out of boredom or fascination. At first, they discover strange forums or abandoned pages, but eventually they come across something far more disturbing. Many deep web stories describe secret communities, unexplained experiments, or conversations that feel impossible to understand completely. The atmosphere usually becomes darker the deeper the character explores. Normal internet rules seem to disappear, replaced by hidden codes, anonymous users, and websites that appear only briefly before vanishing again. The reason these stories became so popular is because the internet already feels endless. Most people know there are parts they will never fully see or understand. Horror uses that uncertainty to create fear from the idea that dangerous things may exist just outside normal online spaces. Lost broadcast stories. Lost broadcast stories revolve around strange television or radio transmissions that suddenly appear without explanation. These tales became popular online because old recordings and distorted signals already feel mysterious on their own. In many versions, viewers discover hidden messages, unsettling images, or broadcasts that seem to interrupt normal programming late at night. Some stories claim the recordings came from unknown stations, while others suggest they were never meant to be seen at all. The fear comes from how believable these situations feel, especially to people who remember staying awake and flipping through quiet channels in the dark. Cursed video stories. Cursed video stories focus on recordings that supposedly harm anyone who watches them. The idea became extremely common during the rise of video sharing websites when strange clips could spread rapidly across forums and online communities. These stories usually describe videos with distorted audio, unsettling imagery, or hidden frames that seem harmless at first, but slowly affect the viewer afterward. Sometimes people in the stories begin hearing voices, seeing figures and reflections, or suffering from constant nightmares. Unlike traditional ghost stories, cursed video stories feel modern because the danger travels digitally from screen to screen. A person may discover the clip through a random link, a message from a stranger, or an old forgotten website. The fear grows because watching a video is something people do every day without thinking much about it. Some stories even claim the file changes over time, showing different scenes every time it is played. Others suggest deleting the video only spreads it further. The more ordinary the technology feels, the more disturbing the horror becomes.